What's up everybody, Civic fan here for another weekly update video. So as you might be able to tell, I am not in the Mustang, and that is because I am in the very awesome Lexus GSF this week for a press car here, and as you might be able to guess, it is a blast. I love this thing, and I will of course talk much more in depth in my review of this car, but I am glad I'm not in a position to buy this or the CTSV, because I think it would be an impossible decision to make, because CTSV's got way more power, but this it's the same level of fun, honestly, with less power. It's kind of crazy how that's even possible, but it is. And so yeah, really enjoying it. Otherwise, not much else to report. The Mustang is at 750 miles currently, so slowly getting close to break in there, and of course I will do a red line run recorded for you guys once I get to 1,000 miles there, do my first red line acceleration in it. But yeah, so you know, I'll be driving this all week, so probably sometime next week is when that'll hopefully be coming. But in the meantime, I'm just having a blast driving this thing. It sounds like a Maserati with this V8, or Maserati, maybe I mispronounced that, but it's such a good sounding V8 engine, and it handles amazingly well. It's just so much fun. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of news to go over this week, so I'll just send it right back to me at the news desk for this week's news. Right, for this week's news, the first thing is Maybach this past week, Mercedes, they just dropped a random teaser for no good reason, because we're at least a couple months away from the first auto shows of the fall starting up, and so this is kind of a surprise, but what we're seeing here is a very long coupe by Maybach. We know it's a Maybach because it has the Maybach badge there on the quarter panel, and also you can see a very faint one there as a hood ornament on the front end. And so, as you can see, it's very long. We know they did the Accelero concept a while back, and this could be another, you know, concept, but I mean, whatever it is, it's extremely long. It's 19.6 feet exactly, so nearly a 20-foot long coupe, which is, to put it into perspective, about 3 feet longer than an S-Class coupe. So quite the extravagant looking thing. I'm sure once they finally do fully unveil it, all we have is this teaser image currently, and it looks pretty awesome, and I feel like it would sell very, very well if they do put something like that into production. And especially if they make it more of a common thing, then, you know, so it could actually compete with stuff like the Rolls-Royce instead of being some super limited production thing. Would be very cool. So awesome to see that. Some other interesting news this past week is that Shelby GT500 mule that we saw running around last week that I talked about, we're not so sure it's a GT500 after all, and the reason being is that it was now just caught on video this past week, and it sounds exactly like a Shelby GT350. Now, I'll include the link below in the description so you can watch the video and hear it for yourself to decide, but I mean, especially just, you know, coming out of the Shelby recently here, I think this sounds exactly like it. I think what we're looking at, since the body is a Shelby GT350 and everything about it, this newer one that was spied on video had the GT350R's wing on it, and also had the same wheels on all four corners, the R wheels as well. So I think, you know, since the front end's all covered up, what they could be testing here is a revised, refreshed front end for the GT350 for the 2018 model year. We've heard that all the Mustangs are going to get a refreshed, little bit of styling here for 2018. Nothing huge, nothing crazy, and there isn't any camouflage even on the back at all, so maybe the back would go unchanged, or they're not testing that part. But the reason why we're thinking this could be a GT350 is because, you know, if you change the front bumper and you change the front end, you can change the cooling aspects, and you know, with these high performance track cars, cooling is everything. So I think that's why they're running this out on the streets on hot summer days here in Detroit, trying to you know, test the cooling features of this new front end here. And so interesting to see that. It could still be some kind of GT500, but it just did not have any kind of turbocharging sounds or any kind of supercharging sounds. Thankfully, it is definitely a V8. It's definitely most likely that 5.2 you know, from the Shelby. So, you know, if this is a GT500 mule, then it certainly isn't going to do the twin turbo V6 thing that some people were fearing. But like I said, my money is now on that this is just a GT350 refresh. There's been rumors back and forth. Some people thought the GT350 was going to be discontinued after the 2017 model model year to make way for a GT500 for 2018, and the two wouldn't be sold alongside each other. But this is showing that it probably is most likely they will continue the GT350 for a while longer. Some people have even suggested that they could continue to make it all the way until the end of the 6th gen Mustangs here, which would end up being until 2020. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, of course, but very interesting to see and finally hear that running around, and be curious to see what it ends up finally being. Other crazy muscle car news is that they officially announced all these horsepower and now the price for the Camaro ZL1. Now we know 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, but the starting price is the real kicker here. $62,135. And I know the GT350 isn't really a competitor to this car because the GT350 is more of a track monster and less of a horsepower monster like this is. But although I'm sure the ZL1 is going to go around a track very fast as well. But so, I mean, that's right in line with Shelby prices, really. It's actually, just a couple $1,000 more. And pretty impressive for 650 horsepower, and puts it right around the Hellcat pricing and stuff like that. And they said this will be about as fast as a Hellcat. 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 is what they're saying here. The quarter mile time is going to be 11.4, which is slightly slower than 11.2 of the Hellcat, which is probably because the Hellcat has an extra 57 horsepower there to pull ahead. But otherwise, very, very similar performance, and so awesome to hear all the official specs there for that. Another thing that was unveiled, not officially, but was spied, is the new 2017 Honda Civic hatchback. Now, we already have seen the sedan and the coupe that are currently on sale. Now we have this hatchback, which looks very similar to the regular sedan, but it looks really good. That's a good thing because I love the way the new Civics look, and so we can just see it, coming off of a massive ship here, and just the basic hatch there in the back. And it's great to see we're going to be getting that here in the States, and hopefully we'll also get the hatchback for the SI version and the Type R as well here in the States. But just to have the one picture there, but great to see that. A couple interesting stories from Audi this past week. The first is they have a new engineering breakthrough here with suspension and recovering lost energy from suspension travel. So whenever you're on bumpy roads, of course, your shock absorbers are absorbing energy and whatnot, and so they've developed a very clever system to capture that energy and put it into a small little battery that will help propel the car and make it more fuel efficient. And I'm not an engineer, so I can't go into the full details of this. I'm sure Jason Engineering Explained or someone like that could do a much better job. But essentially, the end result here is that it gives about a 1 to 3 mile per gallon bump in fuel economy on cars that are equipped with this. And again, we're just seeing basic sketches. We don't know if it's going to be in any cars anytime soon, but I'm sure there'll be some kind of concept car probably coming out here in the fall that may feature this technology to kind of show it off. And I'm sure that something like that, if they deem it to be financially worthwhile, will make its way onto cars here very soon. So cool to see that. And other Audi news, they also recently just spied the new Audi A7, and it's from pretty far away, so we don't get too many details here, but you can see it's definitely sleeker. You can see the front end, is similar to like the new A4 and stuff with the way the headlight treatment is, although it's probably a little slimmer and more aggressive. Very sleek, I think sleeker than the previous generation, and looks really great. It's probably gonna have the same engines as before. It is gonna be on the new platform that the new Audi Q7 is also based on, which helped that SUV to have a huge weight loss. So hopefully we'll get a good weight loss here for the A7 as well, so it'll drive much, much better and handle a lot better than even the already awesome current A7, S7, and RS7. Another vehicle that was spied this past week was an upcoming Porsche Cayenne Coupe. Now, what we're seeing here currently is just a Panamera body on a Cayenne chassis, which is why it looks slightly odd and lifted up there. But pretty cool to see that. I mean, with how popular the coupes, from Mercedes and BMW and stuff, they coupe quote-unquote SUVs, with basically the same as the normal SUVs, just without any of the same great hatch space. So that's kind of what they're testing here, it looks like. Not sure what the final look is going to look like, because of course it's not just going to be a lifted Panamera. This is just a rough mule, but interesting to hear that and see these pictures here. Not sure when that'd be coming, but could see some kind of concept even as soon as later this year or early next year. So great to see that. Other Volkswagen Group news is that there's rumors here about the Bentley Bentayga getting a diesel V8. Now we heard that it's probably going to be getting some form of a diesel at some point eventually, just because especially for the Europeans that makes a lot more sense here. I'm not sure if we would ever get a diesel version here in the States, but if we do, it's looking like it could be the diesel V8 that's out of the Audis. And so they just recently came out with their new one, and then so having this 4-liter diesel V8, the same one that's in the SQ7 Audi, which has 664 pound-feet of torque, by the way. So if you put that in the Bentley, give it lots of great towing capacity and low-end grunt. For those that somehow feel like the W12 isn't up to snuff for whatever reason, this could be a good solution. So interesting to hear that. Other fast SUV news is that Range Rover this past week officially unveiled the SV Autobiography Dynamic. And now the SV Autobiography has already been out, and that's just the super luxurious version. But this is for Europe only currently. They just announced this Dynamic version, which basically gives you the Range Rover SVR treatment, but with the more subtle body and the longer Range Rover chassis there instead of the Sport. And so that's what we're looking at here now. It's official for Europe. There's no confirmation as to whether or not we're going to be getting it here in the States, but I would guess most likely that we are. Another car that was spied testing this past week was the new Mazda CX-5, the 2018 model. It was spied running around Southern California here with camouflage on it, and looks similar to the current CX-5. Now, it is due for a full replacement, they're saying here, a brand new version, but it looks like they're going to keep a lot of the things the same, which is a good thing, because the CX-5 seems to be a really great SUV, and so it looks like it's probably just going to adopt some of the CX-9's sleeker styling, a little bit more futuristic looking. It's going to get rid of the current grille in favor of this larger open mesh type grille, and otherwise it looks pretty good here. And I think that's definitely, with how beautiful all the Mazdas look, I think an evolutionary design approach to changing things is definitely the better way to go than anything radical. And so really good to see that they're sticking to those same great looks. Another car that was spy testing this past week was the 2019 BMW 3 Series, and that's they're guessing it's going to be a 2019 model here, and it's very, very heavily camouflaged, so you can't see too much. And the taillights and the headlights both look a little rough currently, so I wouldn't bank on those being production either here. This is still just an earlier mule, but does look like it's going to be a little bit larger than the current car. It's going to have a similar grille to the 7 Series, and if BMW is following Mercedes' approach to the small, medium, and large S-Class, essentially with the C-Class and E-Class looking so similar to the S-Class, then I would bank on this 3 Series looking very, very much like just a baby 7 Series. And so we'll have to just wait and see if that indeed turns out to be what they do. But as far as the interior goes, they even had a few snapshots of that, and again, it looks very similar to current BMW interiors here. Not too many changes there. So, a little underwhelming there, but good to see that nonetheless, and hopefully the production version is stunning once it finally does come out. Two quick stories about aftermarket stuff here this week. I normally don't talk about this too much, but both of these are pretty interesting. The first is the Mountune, which is the European Ford tuner, and they're actually endorsed, and they are part of Ford themselves. It's officially endorsed by Ford. They came out with a kit for the Focus RS already, so it adds 25 extra horsepower and it keeps your warranty. So like all the other Mountune tunes and whatnot, they preserve your warranty, which is great. So 25 extra horsepower, and 30 extra pound-feet of torque as well. So they're claiming a 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds instead of 4.7 for the standard Focus RS. And so basically all that this includes, it's just a high flow intake, upgraded blow-off valve, retuned engine management, and a badge, and that's it. But I mean, like with the EcoBoost Mustang, it takes very little to get a whole lot more power out of these. So only 30 more horsepower, I think, is a very safe number that, they're allowed to keep the warranty and everything, and still gives you a really nice bump in power for those that thought the 350 horsepower wasn't enough. The other aftermarket thing was Valentino Balboni this past week just launched his own Lamborghini parts company called VB. So it's exciting. It's going to be very exclusive. Now he's making, the first thing they're doing is exhaust systems for the Lamborghini Lamborghini Aventador, but it's going to be an extremely exclusive thing. They're only making 30 of these titanium exhausts. I'm so eager to hear how this sounds because I think the Aventador is definitely a car that could use an exhaust system, and so I'm really excited to hear how this sounds. But the crazy stuff is they're claiming that each exhaust system takes them over 350 hours to make. I'm not sure, I mean, that's pretty mind-blowing, but because of that, they're only making 30 of these exhaust systems, so very exclusive, very limited production, and I'm assuming they're going to be making other parts down the road as well, but this is the first one they're doing, and so very exciting to see that, though. It looks great here from the one picture that they posted up, and Valentino Balboni is a great guy. I was able to meet him a few times in the past, and so I wish him all the luck with that, and I'm sure it'll do very, very well, because I'm sure those will go for a pretty penny, especially with how exclusive and, awesome they are. So, the last story this past week was Fisker released the new Karma Revero. They unveiled what it looks like here, and it's essentially the same as the current Fisker Karma, or the one that they built before the company went bankrupt and was saved by this Chinese company that is now reviving them and bringing them back. But the crazy thing is, this car now, it's still the Karma. It's just a new version of the Karma. It looks identical to the old Karma, honestly. And that was a car that came out in 2012. And these days, with how fast, car designs are changing and whatnot, I think that looks kind of dated. I mean, it looked pretty good back whenever it first came out, but now here we are 4 years later. I don't know. I mean, with Tesla being on fire right now, I'm not sure how, this is going to do. I don't know. Anyway, as far as the car goes now, it's the plug-in hybrid, of course, like it was before. But they're claiming, because the car has a solar panel on its roof, and they're claiming that the solar panel is able to power the car entirely. I'm not sure how that works, because usually solar panels are not efficient enough to power a vehicle. Otherwise, I'm sure Tesla would be doing it with how they have Solar City now, and they want to put solar roofs on every house and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like if this was something that actually could power a Tesla, or any electric car, that Tesla would already be doing it, or at least exploring it. They are not, but Karma is claiming that their solar panel will power the car, which will be interested to see them back up that claim. So it's gonna be pretty exclusive once again, and they're gonna have some exclusive event on September 8th, for current Karma owners who want to upgrade to the new one. They said they've improved the infotainment and stuff like that. I don't see this going well for them. It didn't go over well the first time. They went bankrupt, and now they're debuting a 4-year-old car that has a new infotainment system and an outrageous claim about the solar panel to power the vehicle, and that's how they're going to try and make a business case. And Tesla still isn't even profitable, and they have an enormous buzz and a huge support, and a lot more orders for cars, and if Tesla's still not even profitable, I don't see how Fisker will ever be profitable, but who knows? I mean, competition's good. It's good to have options, so I'm not knocking them. I wish them all the best of luck, but kind of skeptical about that whole car in general. So anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys, so I'll send it back to me in the car. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the news. I'm going to leave you with a nice little acceleration here in the GSF, like I always do. It's madness, and it sounds so good too. I can't wait to post up the GoPro clips and stuff for this exhaust, and this thing is just a blast. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.